I always go, when you make a movie with me, just put your head down and do the work. People will nitpick, they won't pay attention, they'll cut your budget, they will not assume you know what you're doing. And then if the film's a success, they always ask me, well, how did that happen? I'm like, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Sandra Bullock may not know how the magic happens, but there's no denying it does. From a bus that can't stop to a space shuttle that won't start, Sandra has spent 30 years winning over audiences with an eclectic mix of action thrills, goofy comedies and hard-hitting dramas. Early TV roles included a sitcom adaptation of the film Working Girl in 1990 and put Sandra on Hollywood's radar, leading to a role as scientist-turned-man magnet in 1992's Love Potion No. 9, before going head-to-head with Sly Stallone in 1993's Demolition Man.
Now all restaurants are Taco Bell.
No way.
Sandra's career accelerated in 1994, quite literally so, thanks to a bus that will explode if it drops below 50 miles per hour. Directed by Jan de Bont, Speed was a box office smash. But did Sandra see this monster success coming?
You could sense the snicker when people were like, oh, so you're doing Speed, you know, it's the Bomb on the Bus movie. Look, I was ecstatic to be there. I was choice number 74 on the list for the studio. Some women turned it down, and Jan de Bont did a little fighting for me, and I got to be the Annie in the driver's seat. Yeah, the concept seemed quite far-fetched at the time, but when you look at how realistic the people on the bus were and how authentic it felt to LA and how diverse and how simply it was executed, but, you know, not in the complexity of the shots, but it's a simple premise. It just struck a chord.
Miss, can you handle this bus?
Oh sure, it's just like driving a really big Pinto.
And look, didn't do well because of me, it did well because of divine Keanu Reeves and a great concept by Jan de Bont that I got to ride along with and benefit from when it had success, you know.
Hitting the brakes in 1995, she starred in While You Were Sleeping as a lonely train fare collector posing as the girlfriend of a commuter after he falls into a coma. It's less sinister than that sounds. It's a romantic comedy classic and earned Sandra a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical.
You know where it's parked, don't you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Expect fewer laughs in 1995's The Net, where Sandra's computer programmer tries to prevent her life being erased in a shady conspiracy. This more serious side carried on into 1996 wartime weepy in Love and War, where Sandra's nurse fell for Chris O'Donnell's Ernest Hemingway.
I can't stop thinking about him.
And then the blockbuster adaptation of John Grisham's A Time to Kill, where her idealistic law student teams up with Matthew McConaughey to dish out some deep South justice. Romance was in the air in the late 90s as Sandra played a jilted wife finding new love in 1998's Hope Floats. A witch trying to break a husband-killing curse in Practical Magic and then whisked Ben Affleck off his feet in 1999's Forces of Nature.
I'm a rebel.
Well, jumpy for a rebel, aren't you?
In 2000 film 28 Days, Sandra went to rehab. But it was another film that year that would deliver an iconic role, as detective-turned-beauty queen Grace Hart in Miss Congeniality.
But just remember to sing. S-I-N-G. Solar plexus, instep, nose, right!
So much of it is a blur because I didn't have my family then. Work was my family. I was a, working actor, New York City working. You take anything that comes your way and you just make the best of it. Miss Congeniality was sort of my first big producing job. I'd done other smaller ones, but I had this one by the reins. I remember I was making 28 Days. We were making script notes. We were going through and who do we hire and with Mark Lawrence and where are we going to shoot? Let's shoot in Austin, Texas, where it's 120 degrees and we're in a pageant outfit with a beehive on our head. And what are we doing? But it just felt right to make that film. For those girls that didn't have the ingenue in them like I didn't have the ingenue in me when I was looking at films. I was basically playing myself and who I wished had been on screen for me at 14. It's my daughter's favorite film, annoyingly so. The stuff that she repeats, I'm like, oh my God, I need to apologize to so many parents because now I'm getting it back. But it's physical comedy and she's a tomboy and my daughter is that.
Definitely don't show your kids 2002's Murder by Numbers, a grim game of cat and mouse between Sandra's detective and two teenage murderers. Though you are probably safe to show them her delightful double act with Hugh Grant in 2 weeks' notice.
George,
I think you're the most selfish human being on the planet.
That's just silly. Have you met everyone on the planet?
In 2004, she starred in Crash, a searing look at race relations in Los Angeles that won Best Picture at that year's Oscars. And if that sounds too intense, you only had to wait until 2006 for The Lake House, a remake of classic Korean romance Il Mare that reunited her with Speed co-star Keanu Reeves. And it's this versatility that has defined her choice of roles.
I think back on my dreaming of what I wanted to play since a very young age. I always wanted the roles that the men had. I would never imagine myself as the beautiful blonde like the girlfriend, because I was like, well, I don't look like that, so I'm not going to get those roles. What I was drawn to was the energy and the fire and the comedy and physical comedy and the action and the drama that the men got to do, the substance. I didn't see myself as the sexy bombshell, which is really what was being represented when I was watching movies as a kid.
You definitely see that substance in Sandra's choices. In 2006, she completely transformed into To Kill a Mockingbird author Harper Lee in the Truman Capote biopic Infamous. And in 2009, she won Best Actress at the Academy Awards for her incredible turn as ultimate soccer mom Leanne Tui in the NFL drama The Blind Side.
Woo! Yes! Michael!
How do you follow an Oscar? By making two of the best films of 2013. She made for a killer double act with Melissa McCarthy in the raucous cop comedy The Heat.
Are you a knock?
I'm not. Sorry, I don't know what that is.
Before taking a doomed trip to space with George Clooney in the technologically astounding survival thriller Gravity. Almost single-handedly holding your attention for 90 minutes, this is astonishing stuff. She was nominated for Best Actress at the Oscars for her efforts. Sandra came back to Earth for 2015's Our Brand is Crisis as a political consultant trying to win a Bolivian election, before teaming up with a monster cast of Hollywood talent for the all-female reboot of Ocean's 11 in 2018's Ocean's 8. All that time in space with George Clooney must have rubbed off on her.
So go home, get your affairs in order, because tomorrow we begin pulling off one of the biggest jewelry heists in history.
2018 also saw her, or rather didn't see her, in Bird Box, the Netflix phenomenon where even looking at the mysterious entities triggers people to kill themselves. For an unbelievably bleak concept, it did lead to one of the goofiest social media trends as people took on the Bird Box challenge and tried to complete everyday tasks while blindfolded.
How many kids were slammed into walls by their parents? And I laughed. I laughed so hard, and I was like, I'm not supposed to laugh. That poor child just got nailed into the wall. But it was funny. It was funny.
Which leads us to 2021 and Sandra's newest Netflix movie, The Unforgivable. It's another hugely impressive transformation for the actor as she plays Ruth Slater, a convicted cop killer who leaves prison and tries to reunite with her little sister in a world that isn't ready to forgive her.
There just felt like there was a lot on the line for this. Having these women's stories and having these women open up so honestly and seeing how their entire lives, they didn't have an ounce of what I had. And yet they are still in belief that they can figure it out, that they can survive, that they will make it when they get outside of one system as they step into a great unknown system. And I just go, if we don't represent the humanity in that belief, regardless of what the end result was of what they did, then we failed.
You don't have to give me a speech. I'm looking for Katie. She's my little sister. I raised her. Okay, next time, don't drag me through 3 bus transfers to tell me something you already know.
I think we all kind of came at it with such a good amount of fear, desire, hopefulness, but respect for those stories that we were responsible for carrying while entertaining and making this as accessible to anyone who can watch us. Sure, I think there's going to be a handful of people who will look at it and go, I have no idea how to relate to this. Why would someone do this? And I guarantee you it's someone who was born with affluence, someone who never once had to fear for their freedom. Never once. And that's okay. Maybe they'll learn something along the way.
And you can watch The Unforgivable for yourself, as it's streaming on Netflix now.